Hey all, welcome to Comic Books Beyond. This show is all about demystifying comics and looking at books from a new reader-friendly perspective. Hey everybody, Editing Vic here from the future. As part of the 1-year anniversary celebration, which is coming up next week, can you believe it's been a year already? I was able to remaster and republish the old episodes that I had to take down. As many of you know, we used to have a different name, but we no longer go by that name since it was already taken. And I took down the old episodes that reference that heavily. There's still probably a few mentions of it, but I took down all the parts where we promote the socials and everything. When you're done with this episode, which is really, really good, go back and listen to the first 23-ish episodes of the show. Really happy we got to do that. I might be doing some further remastering on a couple old episodes as well from earlier this year before I had the editing process finalized. All right, that's all for now. We're going to get into the regular episode. Thanks so much. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode. I'm Vic, and this week we're talking about Kingdom Come. Now, a little bit of news before we get started. We're on YouTube now, and I am going to be trying to post a YouTube companion video with each one of these podcasts. They're going to be a little more streamlined with they're basically fully scripted versions of this. This is going to still kind of remain my just getting my thoughts out there. Now, I'm recording these a couple ahead of time just because I'm going to need a little bit of a break. And, we're actually kind of coming up on the 1-year anniversary. And to be honest with you, I still haven't decided what the hell we're doing. I have a couple thoughts and I don't know, but I'm thinking if we do anything, it'll just be an extra episode and we'll just go from there. Also, definitely check out the Matt McGrath interview. Really nice dude, and I'm really excited for that work coming out. Also, the podcast is actually up on YouTube now. That could end up being a one-stop shop, depending how, videos and podcasts do there. But yeah, so let's get into today's episode. So this book is written by Alex Ross, or written by Mark Waid with art by Alex Ross. Now, when I was kind of doing a little bit of research on this book, I didn't realize that this was so early in their career. This came out in 96. So Alex Ross had only been drawing professionally for a few years. And Mark Waid had only been writing, I want to say about 7-8 years before this came out, which I know it's a decent amount of time in this career, but to have a win this big is kind of blowing away. So I'm not bearing the lead in how much I like this one. So I don't really have any disclaimers for this book. It's nothing too crazy. There are some, socio-political issues that do come up in this, which are unfortunately very relevant to today's society. It's just we've been talking about these same things forever. Like, if you think the problems of today are new, unfortunately, they're just not. We're just talking about them and hopefully fighting against them in the way we should be. So, my first impression of this book, I first read this, oh God, maybe I was 21 or 22 and I'm 38 now. So I definitely don't think I fully grasped it when I was that young. Reading it now this time, this is freaking mind-blowing. There is such nuance and just little things about this that some things maybe didn't age as well, but the book is just so mind-blowingly progressive, especially when I think back to the politics of 96. I mean, I was 8 when that came out, but it was not exactly the most tolerant of time with stuff like Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and just the whole older crotchety people completely in charge with no one really fighting against it, and kind of in a daze of where the world was. This story's general concept, and we're going to be as unspoilery as humanly possible here, this is an Elseworld story, so that means this isn't part of the bigger main DC story. I don't always connect with books like this because I'm mostly interested in the main story. Like, part of the fun for me is seeing how these little interactive, or how this, world and how the writers get their story to interact with them. And like, I just think it's a lot of fun that way. These Elseworld stories, I'm not trying to sound pejorative when I say this. You have so much creative freedom that like you just lose a little bit of the charm of Marvel and DC Comics for me. However, there are certain things that are just so freaking good that you just put all that beside. And this is one of those times. So this is basically a Elseworld story where the old guard of superheroes are kind of falling away, and there's a new guard of heroes that are trying to protect the world. And the old guard has been super commercialized. Like, we get a lot of Planet Hollywood style themed restaurants around like Batman, Superman, and you also have a billionaire class with some various characters all over the place, kind of ruling, and there's a lot of infighting there, as well as there's infighting on the superhero side. It's some really nuanced stuff, and I really thought it was cool, where you just don't have like the baddest of the bad on one side, but you have characters who I won't spoil working with some of the villains, and maybe working is in quotations. So the general conceit of this is that something really bad happened, and Superman, for lack of better words, put himself into self-imposed exile. When you don't have a Superman in the DC world, shit gets really bad, and you have a replacement who is a much more violent Superman. So what are some things about this that I like? I mean, I've already touched on the politics of this. There is some both sidesism to this story, but it's not the bullshit. There's good people on both sides. Truly, what this is saying, there's bad people on both sides. Like, you think that's just a pretentious inversion, but really what it's saying is everyone in this book is wrong, and no one is willing to admit it. Until the end, where someone does admit they're wrong. And I'm not saying it solves all the problems, but just admitting you're wrong is just a sign of maturity, character growth, and just wanting to do better. I love the art in this book. This is Alex Ross. If I were made of money, I would have an original Alex Ross painting in every room of my house. He does this, like, I call it like a Norman Rockwell style, like this, I think it's an oil painting where everything is like this retro futuristic, and it's super high detailed. It's unbelievable how good it looks. And it's exactly perfect for this, because it's contrasting like the old world versus the new, where just the look of this world is very sharp and crisp, but it's got this like 1950s aesthetic across the board, where it's like you're walking into if you've ever been in like a 50s themed restaurant, like I know Johnny Rockets is like the McDonald's version of that, but strangely the burgers and the shakes are pretty damn good and really filling. It kind of reminds me of that, where like you walk into this world and you're just instantly transported there. The fight scenes in this book are unbelievable. Like, you have these great quiet moments of just people hanging out, and they look great. But we like to see some action. Let's not fucking kid ourselves. It looks just so good, with people flying over, and like there's an image of Superman or two in here that just makes me go, oh, holy shit. And there's color theory all over the place, which I'm not the best at, because colorblind. But there's even a call out where Superman's symbol goes from white to dark, where he has to be a darker hero. And he's still not, like Batman level dark. He's just a darker version than a Superman you would get. I think Wonder Woman is a little underrepresented here. We still get good Wonder Woman, but she could have just done a little bit more. The one thing that I'll kind of mildly spoil is just a character design in this. Dick Grayson is a very minor character in here, and he goes back from, I think they were saying he was Nightwing, and he went back to the Robin identity more for a symbol of hope. But his design is what Tim Drake would eventually use as Red Robin. I think that's where this comes from, and I didn't even remember that. Like, I would have definitely read this after. No, I don't know. I read this around the time he was Red Robin, and I actually never read all of Red Robin. I have some of it, but I'm just going to hit the DC app at some point. As far as things I don't like, there's not a whole heck of a lot. Like, you can say that some characters are acting out of character at times, but that's to be expected when you're dealing with an Elseworld story. Yeah, I really just don't have much negative to say about this book. Now, I will say, since we're talking specifically about the stories from the compact and the premiere editions, the compact edition, I wasn't able to get my hands on one at the time of this recording. Coincidentally, every time we pick off the Wheel of Causality, I go to Barnes & Noble's and they just don't have it. Or I go to my local comic shop and they just don't have it. And I'm not ordering off the website. I'm probably not going to shop at Barnes & Noble's much anymore with their recent AI push. We have a membership there that gets us a decent discount. So that's why I'm currently using that. And I also live in a place where we have 2 comic shops and a bookstore for about 250,000 people. And by 250,000 people, I mean like our Tri-County area. Oh, the last thing I actually wanted to touch on, this is talking thematically about not only the nature of the old guard versus the new, and specifically the old guard not really setting up the new guard for success, but this is just about hero worship and why it's not only harmful, but it's completely unrealistic. This is a lot of the things that Alan Moore's been talking about for 30 years, and well, I think Alan Moore is one of the greatest writers of all time and is also very crotchety. It's hard to say that he's not correct about how we view superheroes, and I still love them. So I'm part of the problem. But like, there's little references to some of his work in here, which I think is really special and nuanced. Or maybe not nuanced, but I guess a little bit. If you've read Miracle Man, I won't spoil this for you, but there's some stuff in here that actually reminds me of Miracle Man, or I think it was originally called Marvel Man. I have the Marvel reprints that were written by the original writer. The original writer was Alan Moore. He just didn't want his name on it. So that's where we go. When I talk about the 3-part harmony of storytelling, my pretentious bullshit to use my writing degree, the right story for the right character with the right themes is what makes a good story. This is exactly that. This is the Justice League talking about not only the history of a fictionalized version of the DC universe and somewhat doing meta commentary on the writing and the way the world shaped, which is oddly similar to last week's episode on some things that Ed Brubaker was doing. So you have to wonder, was he a big fan of Mark Waid? Maybe he was. I can't imagine he wasn't. Mark Waid is one of the most consistent writers of all time. I always say, if you want to get into a character, look to see if Mark Waid's written it and then jump in there. But these ideals for the old world versus the new, and the old world specifically not setting up the new class of heroes for success, this is exactly who I'd want to see, because you have more of a mishmash of the Justice Society, who are the old heroes, or like almost the Earth 2 versions of them. So like if you go back to Infinite Crisis or Crisis on Infinite Earths, that's about compressing all the different timelines into one. And then you look at Infinite Crisis, where you have Earth 2 Superman be really pissed off at how messed up that the current Earth is, like how much more violent it is. Like this fits somewhere like kind of in the center, where they're not part of the same story, but almost from like a meta context way, you can see the history of the DC universe being reshaped in this world, getting progressively more violent and more fucked up. You see new heroes show up, like we're about to go into like Marvel Knights era, and we just got out of, early 90s Extremity, where me and John Burkle talked about this in the Under the Hood episode, where you had heroes like the Punisher becoming more popular. We're just about to get to, the Jason Todd stuff, like the true anti-hero, anti-villain stuff. Oddly, on the, and like Azrael is showing up here. You have characters that are just more violent. And this is about the ever-changing world, where when you really think about some of those stories, how well are the sidekicks treated? Not very well. How often have legacy characters been able to just take over books? And I know Alex Jaffe talks about this a little bit, where, legacy characters aren't given the room to breathe and succeed. The only real successful legacy characters that I can think of off the top of my head are Dick Grayson as Nightwing and Wally West is the Flash. I'm not caught up on the Flash, but it sounds really good right now. Just not hitting my personal wheel of causality of what I pick next. But you just don't see characters get to be characters. Like, we had Hal Jordan replaced at this time. About 10 years after this, he comes back. We have Wonder Woman being succeeded a few times. I won't even get into the history of Donna Troy because I am truly not well versed enough. Go read Alex Jaffe's articles on that. But yeah, this is just about the old world and the new not coming to an understanding, and the old world not setting the new one up for success. Like, I don't know if it's just a this generational thing, but not trying to shit on too many people here. Like, as the younger generation is coming up, like, I still feel pretty new in my, like, this is the first time in my life where I feel any level of comfort, control, or success. And I've been working, and I've been lucky. I've never been unemployed, but I never really had teachers in my personal life, at least not people who set me up for success. I had to make my own way, and it's awful. Like, what I would love to do and what I've tried to do at work is anything that I've been good at is just try to set the next people up. It's one of the reasons I do this, and I just want people to read, be more empathetic and more understanding. Last couple things we're going to touch on. Does this make me want to read more? Hell yeah. I actually want to jump right into Mark Waid's Justice League. Now, this is an Elseworld story. I think there is a sequel to this that I never read. I don't know if it's any good, but it would just be ridiculously hard to live up to this, where you'd get a next story and, that's fine, and it's not going to dismiss this story. I kind of hate when people say, like, a sequel ruins the work. Just pretend it doesn't exist. Who gives a shit? But yeah, I just really want more Superman. I really want more Justice League, and I kind of want more Justice Society right now. There's so much I want to read that it's just getting hard to pick up on everything. As far as new reader friendliness, there is going to be a tiny bit of context you're not going to have, but again, it's an Elseworld story. Like, if this is your first DC book, you might not pick up on some things, but the way the characters are introduced, the way the story and the concept's introduced, you're gonna be just fine to follow it. You just won't get everything. And honestly, there's not many books on this planet that fall under that. So I'm gonna actually count this as pretty new reader friendly. You just might miss a couple things, which is fine. As far as other books to recommend by Mark Waid, I actually want to go on the other side of the fence. I really enjoyed his Fantastic Four. It's really good. It's one of my more favorite things he's read or written. He's writing World's Finest right now, which I read the first arc of, and I really enjoyed it. I just didn't go back for whatever reason. I've been having, like, scatterbrainness with all this stuff I've been wanting to read. I've just been kind of like, do an arc here, hop to another story, do an arc there, hop to another story. As far as Alex Ross goes, if his name's on a book, just pick it up. Even if you have no interest in reading it, just look through the art. It's that good. I guess we're ready to spin the wheel of causality. So since we're reviewing almost all the DC Compacts and Marvel Premier Editions, we're going to just pick one at random. So let me bring up the wheel, which I forgot to spin. Now, I do have a few things pulled out simply because I don't want to support certain creators that kind of make me uncomfortable with some problematic views. And I have a few things reserved for other folks. By the time this episode comes out, yep, I can include some extra things. So we are about to spin. There's currently 25 books on the Wheel of Causality. And there's some of these on here. Holy crap, I hope we don't get anytime soon. But it's fun. We're just going to be spinning the Wheel of Causality because who doesn't want to pick books at random? September is Bat Month and October is Horror Month. So we might not actually be talking about books on the Premier Edition during Horror. We already have a few things set up for Bat and Horror Month. So here we go. Wheel of Causality, spin, spin, spin. Give us a book and we'll dive in. Or whatever the hell the Animaniac said. Ooh, we landed on a 1. What is that? Oh my god, how did we win 2 weeks in a row? The first book in Wheel of Causality is All-Star Superman. So this is really cool. I definitely should be able to find a copy of that. But recently, I found the Absolute edition of All-Star Superman for dirt cheap at my local comic shop, and I am going to be cracking into that as soon as possible. All right, everybody, read comics and be good to each other and check in on your people. Well, it's time to close the book on today's episode. If you're a comic book creator and you have something for me to review or would like to interview a guest on the show, please send me an email at comicbooksbeyond@gmail.com. This offer is also available to fellow comics journalists. If you're a listener and you want to submit a question, I'd happily read it on the show. Please just let me know if it's okay to read and how you'd like to be credited. If you'd like to get a hold of me otherwise, I'm at Comic Books Beyond on Bluesky, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, but I mostly use Bluesky. I am trying to use Instagram a little bit more, though. If you'd like to show support for the show, please consider leaving a rating, review, or comment. I ask for honest reviews only, and I'm always looking for ways to improve the quality and content of the show. All right, everyone, be good to each other, and stick around for some gratitude and thanks. Comic Books Beyond would like to thank John Burkle and the crew of the Talking Comics podcast, Brandon McNulty, Lisa and Brad from Comic Book Couples Counseling, Alex Jaffe, Jeremy Whitley, Jimmy Gaspero and the crew of Comic Book Yeti, John Clyde III of Shadow and Flames with Magik podcast, David Pepose, and all of our listeners and co-hosts.